Hey everyone, this is Dr. William Clark here. So glad that you're joining us for the Dr. William Clark podcast. This podcast is focused on helping nonprofits simplify the fundraising processes they use so they can build six-figure programs without chasing funders. I don't know about you, but I wish I knew this information before I started working in the nonprofit world years ago. But I'm here to help you build six-figure programs, and I'm here to help you on your journey. So would you be so kind to not only listen to this podcast, would you also rate? Would you also subscribe? Would you also comment on this podcast wherever you're listening? And lastly, would you also be kind enough to share this podcast with a friend or a colleague who you believe can benefit from the content we're sharing? Now, we are here to help and support you on this journey, and I believe that we have some resources that can help you quite a bit. So go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, and share this podcast. Now, let's jump into our show. Hey folks, this is Dr. William Clark, your host of the Dr. William Clark podcast. Glad to be with you for another episode. This is the podcast where we talk about how to simplify your fundraising approaches to raise the money and meet the goals that you have for your nonprofit organization. Glad to be with you for another episode. This episode is brought to us by the Nonprofit Fundraising Masterclass. This masterclass was designed by nonprofit leaders for nonprofit leaders with the purpose of helping you simplify your fundraising results, 10x fundraising outcomes, and generate more resources from your board. If this meets the need that you have for your fundraising and this season and a part of the life cycle that you're a part of right now for your organization, go ahead and join the masterclass. You can submit your application by going to nonprofitfundingstrategies.com. Again, it's nonprofitfundingstrategies.com. So I wanted to talk about this topic, developing winning systems that raise money. And I wanted to address this topic because one of the things I noticed quite a bit is that, particularly in the nonprofit space, and I've seen this in other spaces with entrepreneurs who are still trying to figure it out and get it together for their business, is that people start their businesses, whether for-profit, nonprofit, ministry, etc., and they do so knowing that they probably are absolutely called to do it. And what that means is that is what they were created to do. They were created and put on this earth to actually do the thing that they do, right? And that passion typically, it creates a lot of energy. All right, it creates a lot of energy, and it creates a lot of desire to kind of just get up there and just do the work, right? You see a lot of that in a nonprofit space. But again, for those of you who are listening who run for-profit businesses, you probably relate to that too. I've been there with my for-profit businesses, been there in the nonprofits I've been a part of, led, or created, and I get it. So that passion shows up, and it drives you to take action, which is absolutely important. For those who are serious entrepreneurs and serial entrepreneurs, you know the importance of what it means to show up and take action. Now let me just say, after you take action, you start to notice that you're making some headway, you're having some sense of success, you are generating some results. And then the question becomes, I want to do more. Or I'm being burnt out, or I'm not seeing the results that I'm looking for on a massive scale. I'm looking to scale even further and go beyond where I am. And you don't know what to do, how to do it, or you don't know what's standing in your way of making that happen. This is where having solid systems matter, and this is where having solid systems in place helps you navigate that particular issue. This is why we're talking about developing winning systems that help raise money, because it allows you to do more. It allows you to have access to the success that you're looking for. Now, at the end of the day, systems are ways of doing things that is consistent. And when I talk about consistent, I'm talking about getting the same result every time you plug your activity into the system. This is true for nonprofits, and we'll keep it at nonprofits because of this podcast, but this is true for nonprofits, ministries, and for-profit businesses. If you're looking to do a thing, provide a service, do an act of value, for a particular group of people that you are called to serve in your mission, you're going to have to implement systems. You're going to have to implement focus. You're going to have to implement ways of doing business. Okay? If you don't do so, you're going to find yourself reaching your ceiling very, very quickly in terms of how many people you can serve, in terms of the quality of services, in terms of how often you can do it, in terms of just about every element of your business. So you're going to need systems. Now, when we talk about systems, we're not just talking about technical systems, applications. We're not just talking about hardware and software. We're talking about the way that you do business. Now, hardware and software certainly helps the business systems kind of go. It helps bring systems to life. It makes systems more accessible. It makes systems more usable and available to you, and that cannot be ignored. But technology is not the center focus of systems and what they stand for. Okay? I want to share a couple of things with you from my book, Sustainable: How to Sustain a Faith-Based and Nonprofit Institution. And I talk about how to sustain your organization outside of grants and traditional funding sources. Within the book, I talk about this thing called PSP. And PSP stands for Patterns, Structures, and Processes. If we're talking about systems, if you're looking to change your organization, to shift gears, to meet specific goals, if you're looking to accomplish something very, very specific, you're going to need PSPs within your organizational structure and life cycle. Again, that's patterns, structures, and processes. Patterns speak to the way your business does what it does. Okay? It's how you do it. It's the secret sauce. It's the 2 all beef patties in between 2 sesame seed buns and the special sauce. There is a pattern of structuring this burger. There's a pattern of layering the burger. There's a pattern of preparing the burger. There's a known way of doing it. Okay? The S stands for structures. What structure do you have in place to create the burger? Right? What type of oven do you use to make the burger? Where do you store the meat before, during, and after it's cooked? How do you prepare the bun itself? Okay, structure. It's the how. Pattern speaks to the what. Structure speaks to the how. And process is that consistent way of getting it done so that we have the same result every single time. We want the same freshness of the meat. We want the same flavor. We want the same experience. We want everything consistently the same. It's all about patterns, structures, and processes. Listen, when it comes to raising money for your organization, you're going to have to establish patterns, ways of doing things, ways of structuring the process, ways of executing on the fundraising journey. At the end of the day, without these systems in place, the pattern, structures, and processes in place, what you're going to find when it comes to fundraising for your nonprofit organization is that you're going to easily feel overwhelmed. You're going to easily feel like, I can't do it. You're going to easily feel like I don't need funders because I'd rather do the work. You're going to easily feel like I need staff, but I can't afford staff. You're going to easily feel like my board members are inadequate and insufficient, not realizing, man, there's a pattern, structure, and process to this. The way to raise money, guys, and there are the 3 secrets I share around raising money. You need strategy, performance, and relationships. In order for those 3 secrets to work, in order for you to tap into revenue for your nonprofit through strategy, performance, and relationships, you're going to have to implement systems, patterns, structures, and processes. Systems, ways of doing what you do from every element of the work, going from operations to recruitment to board development into money management, fundraising, if you're into volunteers, volunteer acquisition and management, data entry, data collection, data assessment, report generation, every element of the work needs a system. I tell my clients all the time, it's great that you have these ideas. It's great that you want to tweak a process. It's great that you want to fix a way of doing business. But where's the system in place that allows you to not only create a winning system, a winning way of doing business, a winning pattern, structure, and process, but where's the system that allows you to have your staff do the same in the future? Because at the end of the day, having your staff develop contributions to the system is how you grow your business. This is how you scale. When there's a methodology for adding new ways of doing business, when there's a methodology for collecting information on how we can get better and be more efficient, when there's a methodology and people understand it, they can contribute to it, and this is how you scale your business to become better at what it does. This is the live recording of the Dr. William Clark podcast. This podcast focuses on simplifying fundraising efforts for nonprofit organizations. And this particular episode is brought to us by the Nonprofit Fundraising Masterclass. This masterclass was brought to us or created by nonprofit leaders for nonprofit leaders to help simplify your fundraising process, 10x outcomes, and increase board engagement around fundraising. If you're interested in submitting your application to this upcoming cohort, visit us at nonprofitfundingstrategies.com. Again, that's nonprofitfundingstrategies.com, or DM me by clicking my bio in Instagram or Facebook. Now, we have a couple of folks in the audience. Welcome into this conversation. If you have a question about systems, go ahead and feel free to raise your hand because systems they're essential. And again, I want to refresh just a little bit as folks are coming in. I want to make sure we're clear about this. When we talk about systems as it relates to raising money, I'm not necessarily addressing technological system or tech-based systems. I'm not talking about hardware or software. I'm not talking about how hardware and software integrate. What I am saying is that there has to be a way of doing things. There has to be a way of solving problems. There has to be a way, a system, a pattern, a structure, a process of doing what you do so that you can get the same results. It's the system that allows you to raise the money. It's the system that allows you to accomplish the goals that you have. It's the system that allows you to be consistent. It's the system that enables you to consistently get outcomes that matter. And at the end of the day, without the systems, it's very, very difficult to be predictive about what outcomes you expect to achieve. With that being said, I want to welcome Cynthia to the podcast. Cynthia, what's going on? How are you? What's your question or comment about developing winning systems? Good morning.
I was just going to say, we have in our, what we call our Millionaires Club, because I sell paparazzi jewelry. It's that gorgeous $5 bling, y'all. Daily methods of operation. And when you follow them, you're not just spinning your wheels, because there's something measurable that you can attain every day. And like Friday is coming up, so we get our list of potentials ready so that we can make that call for no. You know, we're chasing 100 no's because out there is a yes, and that yes is coming. I'm done speaking.
Cynthia, thanks for sharing that. Just a couple questions about your business and processes. Talk to us about the importance of systems when it comes to reaching your goal of 100 no's. Why do those systems matter, and how do you implement those particular systems to get to 100 no's?
Well, because you have to at least go for no. Go for no with the expectation, well, maybe this one will say yes. But if they don't, then the next one will. So I'm fairly new to paparazzi. I've only been in 3.5 years, so I'm still learning the business. And I joined a lot of different clubhouse chats, go to a lot of meetings, even teaching myself off YouTube from some of the best and some of the elite earners to try and learn this business and get myself up and running, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. And from what you've learned so far, being new to the business and implementing it into your daily flow, what are your thoughts? How are you thinking about systems, and how are you thinking systems can be implemented into the way you're going to run your business?
Well, it's taught me I need to get up and chase earlier. You know what they say, the early bird gets the worm.
Mm-hmm.
Getting up by 7 o'clock, you've lost so much time. You need to get up at least by 3, 4 o'clock, go through your emails, go through your messaging, reply to folks that have said something to your post. You have to reply. You have to make content that not just fluff. You have to have a meaningful dialogue with people. You know, you go on people's posts and you talk to them. Whether it's just happy birthday, how are you? Well, that's a cute kid. When did you go to this place? I want to know where's this beautiful location at? You ask questions.
Yeah, I think what you're speaking to is successfully and consistently engaging on social media as a part of your system. And does your system with the business that you're into now, do they encourage you to do any other activities on social media, like going live, selling live from any social media platforms? Is that a part of the system as well?
It's funny you ask, because our team is called the Go Live Crew. And right now I'm in day 49 of a 108-day marathon. So I'm live nightly at 9:15, Wednesdays at 9:45. So we go live. Our team goes live with marathons, especially on the weekends. And we show bling, especially matching something together. You know, we match sets together so that you can see what will look good with this, what will look good with that. And we give you hints, tips, and ideas. Posting daily in your stories, both on Instagram and IG. Now, I'm on Tumblr, I'm on TikTok, I'm on all of them. So when I post something to one, it reminds me I need to post to all of them. So I put all the little apps in a little cluster. So when I hit and go to one, I have to hit and go to all. And then come back, because of the algorithm of Facebook or Twitter or whatever, come back an hour or so later and post something else. And it doesn't necessarily have to be your business. You can post something that's, say, an engagement post, something to ask a question, something that's going on in the world. But we tend to be told to stay away from politics. I don't. Stay away from hot topics. I don't. So it's up to you what you want to post and how you want to engage people. I'm done talking.
Yeah, that's so interesting, and I'm just thinking about you going live every night, right? It's powerful because I think after the 108 days, what I believe they're after is creating this habit now, and this habit becomes a part of your system. And I'm pretty confident that if you've been doing it for 45 plus days so far, you probably have a process down of going live that makes you feel comfortable, that allows you to interact and engage with your audience. And I think that speaks to what this topic is today, right? Developing winning systems to raise money. And even when you're selling something from a stage, product or services, it's about a winning system, a way of doing it. And certainly my team and I have a number of systems that allows us to raise significant money for our nonprofit, but also I have systems in place to raise money or sell for my business, right? I mean, you guys are in this Clubhouse room / live recording of the podcast. And it was a couple weeks ago that I discovered how to podcast and Clubhouse and do Clubhouse at the same time. I'm an avid podcaster, but my podcasting slipped early 2021 because I was doing Clubhouse and I didn't know how to do both. And I finally figured it out. And I'm doing it right now, right? And to the point, of this, you guys can catch the replay over the past couple of weeks of every clubhouse I've led or moderated by going to Dr. William Clark podcast, and you'll see every episode that I've done if I was in my studio. So I think that you're doing something really interesting for yourself and for your own shifts in your own life by going live every day. I'm curious and excited to see what's going to end up happening with you after the 108 days of going live. Let me get LaDonna in here. LaDonna, how are you? Welcome to the podcast. What are your thoughts about this topic?
Hi, and thank you so much for having me. Hello, everyone. I think this is an interesting topic because I know that it's one that I have needed to implement into my nonprofit because, like you said, with those structures and those systems in place, it can help you to seamlessly, have things that you need in place. And I know it's one thing that's missing in my nonprofit because I do well, but I know if I had a structure set up, it could work even better. I do have my own board members and things like that, but like you said, sometimes getting them to work and letting them feel the goal of what we're doing is sometimes a push. And so what you're speaking about, I know that is really relevant, and I can see how it can help my nonprofit to grow because I do a lot of things with the nonprofit, but having that structure and having those systems in place, I know that it could help more seamlessly more.
Yeah. So let's talk about it, LaDonna. What is it that you are struggling with, and how can I help you right now, live on the show, to design and develop some systems? Because whatever I share will be on the replay, and you can replay it, and you don't got to worry about taking notes because it seems like you might be out and about. So what's the challenge you're dealing with right now?
So the challenge for me is making just donor collection. I had, even last, when it was Christmas Eve, my nonprofit donated, things to Kenya. Sorry, and so I do it through PayPal, but I wanted to have like another place of having all my donors together so that maybe I could shoot them an email, say, hey, you all, this is what we did, and things like that. So I know I was trying to research a different place to have all of my donors in one place to be active and still communicate with them throughout the month or the year, just to check back in and let them know what we're doing at the nonprofit.
Yeah, I like that. And if there's anyone in the audience who has any recommended platforms for that, please come onto the stage or flash a mic. I will say I don't necessarily use individual donor platforms, so I'm not as well versed in them. I will speak to this issue from the perspective of running a for-profit business where I do sell products and services. When people purchase a product or service from me, they obviously have to, submit their contact information, and that platform that I use not only collects their fee, whether it's a one-time fee or recurring fee, it collects their contact information. It also serves as the medium, the platform I use to deliver my product and service. And that platform I use at this point is Teachable. And whenever I want to send a mass communication to all my customers, or I want to send a communication to a particular customer who bought a specific product, which will quickly segment folks, I'm able to do so. Another platform I've used over time just works as well as Teachable is Gumroad. That's Gumroad. That's gumroad.com. Again, that platform is designed for product and services. And so for you, I know that there are donor-specific platforms that just collect money or whatever the case may be and allow you to tell stories. But for me, as someone who's in a for-profit business, one of those two platforms, and I use both of them actively, they're used to kind of allow people to access whatever information they're looking to download relative to nonprofits and fundraising. And when necessary, I'm able to communicate to them via email and mass communicate while also collecting any fees that they are paying for the product.
Thank you. I appreciate giving that how Teachable, would be. I could use that for my service because even though my nonprofit is called Planting Positive Seeds, and I help women and girls develop, improve their emotional wellness, and so I do as well have products and different things that will help, my nonprofit be for profit, in order for it to run and to do my community outreaches, and different things like that. I give away academic scholarships to girls who are graduating from high school, going into college, and so I can use Teachable because I do have classes that I teach. Like if I do boot camp over the summer, I take that information and put it there so that people can, access it. So I have not used them because I was doing my teachings live. But for those now, since we've basically been in this pandemic, and I want my nonprofit does reach all over the world, so that's one thing that I will implement. So thank you for sharing, Doctor.
Yeah.
I'm the doctor. I'm finished speaking.
Awesome sauce. Good morning, Denise. Welcome to the podcast. What's your comment or question about this topic?
Good morning, Doctor. Well, I started listening on a whim. I don't have a nonprofit. I am starting a business. I've been working on it for a couple of months now. I'm a former business education teacher and a mom of 3, and I want to help kids become independent. I'm finding that a lot of kids aren't learning things in school about money, about, responsibility, about taking a car loan or a lease or, different financial and independent living decisions, like just how to shop and cook healthy meals and that kind of stuff. And I was thinking about doing it on a for-profit platform, but, these kids are, say 15 to 25, and they really don't have the money nor the interest in learning things that they don't really even know that they need to know yet. So somebody suggested to me that I develop it into a nonprofit platform and work with schools or work with like foster homes, like foster care people, or work with somebody else. And I just wanted somebody's opinion on kind of the pros and cons of either. And it sounded to me like you had experience in both. So I thought maybe you would have some words of wisdom for me on the approach that I need to take in order to help the most people. Thank you. I'm done talking.
Yeah, and tell me a little bit more about what you're thinking about doing for the target client that you're looking to serve.
Well, I'm starting out with coaching only because it was kind of the easiest way to get my website up and running, but I'm developing some course material, some courses, and I was thinking maybe some video type courses, even if it's on YouTube or something like that will kind of help them make decisions of what to do first. Like don't go out and lease a $700 Mercedes if you think you want to save money to move out. So just on an individual time, or even like, am I ready for a pet? Or what do I need in order to move out of my house? Or what are my alternative educations besides college if I don't want to go to college? So those are the kinds of smaller pieces that I wanted to put them in.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm clear, you're thinking about offering some sort of coaching around financial literacy for life?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you can go any way with this, right? There are tons of people that are doing a lot of financial literacy today in the for-profit world. It shows up from what I'm seeing in the form of credit repair and credit education and money management education. And those folks, particularly those that I know of, that work for me rather, who have hired friends who've started these businesses, they're doing very well. And I am noticing that it's not just about the credit repair process. It's about just complete education around how your credit works, how to protect it, how to honor it, how to grow it, how to fix it, how you can ruin it, and then how to leverage it, which is like a great kind of stepping stool for building a business of any type, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit. On the nonprofit side, unfortunately, you generally see, and this is a big word, general, you generally see traditional baseline financial literacy content. Basically, how to open up a checking account, how to deposit money, how to balance your checkbook. And those basic forms of content is pretty ubiquitous, unfortunately, right? And it assumes that people who are living in tough situations, who are living in urban centers, are generally unbanked, which means that they don't have banking education. They don't understand how banks work. They typically get a paycheck. They go to the cash checking store. They lose percentages of their check just to get the cash out. And very few know how to utilize a bank. And so there's an attempt to just meet folks at that basic level. What I've seen is that, yes, that's true for a percentage of the population who struggles. But I think there's a bigger, broader need for broad-based, big picture, big thinking financial literacy for all types of people who you're serving, no matter what category you're serving them in or from. And I think that talking about life in and of itself and how money flows in and out and how that works is super, super critical. I mean, you talked about, should I lease or purchase a vehicle or get a dog? I would even, depending on the population you're talking about, have conversations, coaching sessions, develop a program talking about how the power of being an independent adult. Is there really power in it, right? And why is this a conversation? Because when you become a quote independent adult in Western culture in America, here's what it costs, right? One of my favorite episodes of the Cosby Show was when Theo wanted to act grown, and his dad and his mom, they put a price tag on everything. You want to be an adult at 16? Cool. This is what it's going to cost, right? I think that reality needs to creep in. For some people, there might need to be a serious conversation about what it means to live in congregate housing with family, right? We don't do much of that in Western culture, but is it more advantageous and financially stable for you to do that? However, the challenge you're going to run up against that, Denise, is there are some unhealthy homes where people really can't stay with their family, can't stay with their friends, and so it's not a real option. So talking about financial literacy for life, in my opinion, if you're going to do this, you can go either way, for profit, nonprofit. I would encourage you to not only talk about the basics of being unbanked and how to navigate and deal with banking systems, I would encourage you also to talk about credit and how money just works in life in general, how it impacts your health, physical and mental health, how it impacts relationships, how it impacts your children, how it impacts just the quality of life that you are looking to lead or have now and going forward.
Well, that's great advice. Thank you. I appreciate that. I guess my biggest problem is, and I have a more curriculum around it. Like I have a whole list of things, and I actually have a website, which is just a landing page, talking about transportation, talking about healthy living, talking about shopping, talking about social responsibility. Like, what do you do when your friend's mother dies, or when you get an invitation to a wedding? You have to RSVP. Do you send flowers? Do you go to the thing? Just life skills about, being a grown-up. And this is some things that I could definitely add about it, the effects of money. But some of them are even relationships, because some of these girls are getting into relationships where they're being abused, and the signs are there, and they ignore them, so I kind of, so there's a lot of modules about, Life 101 that I really want to do to help people. But these kids that I'm targeting don't know that they need my help.
Yeah.
Like these kids, and they don't have any money to pay for my help. That's where the problem lies, because if they don't have any money and they don't have the knowledge that they need to have it, then what is the best place to do? Either work through the parents to help the parents teach them the things that they need to know, or work through the schools to try to get them the education they need before they get out of school and screw up their lives. Yeah. That's where my problem lies, because as much as I'd love to be able to do it for free, I'm not looking to be a millionaire, but I'm also looking for the ability to do it so that I can make a living for myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I charge big, hefty fees. I don't need to be $1 million speaker, but what I do need is enough to pay my rent and my own bills so that I can leave my full-time job and do this to reach as many kids as I possibly can.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about bringing back home economics, right? And the concept of what that meant back then and what it could mean today. Hearing you share what you shared, I feel in my gut, and I don't have any data to substantiate this, but I feel in my gut that there is an undercurrent desire for us to help the next generation coming forward, because you talked about some really important things. You also mentioned, and this is not talked about enough in a lot of households, the importance of life insurance and having financial coverage soup to nuts. You talked about relationships and you talked about just life in general. Whatever. I don't necessarily have commentary on what folks should or shouldn't do for their nonprofit. I have commentary on what's fundable. But I will say that if you're looking to do this, Denise, I recommend you kind of take a hard look at what you're able to do and figure out how you can start doing it. And then I would encourage you just to schedule a consultation with me, right? Just click my bio, get in my DMs, and ask me for the link to schedule a consultation. Because I want to talk about this more, but I also want to talk about ways to fund this, right? How to support it, where to get started. I have some really quick ideas. Definitely, you want to look at partnering with schools, whatever age group you're targeting, partnering with schools, churches, places of faith, and community centers, making yourself available on a consistent schedule. And we, during our consultation, can talk about different ways to fundraise to do this thing, right? Because I think it's so, so important that the next generation coming up behind us has the wisdom of the previous generation so that they can make better decisions, and there's a legacy that we all can leave behind.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, be sure to schedule that consult with me. Just click on my bio there. You can get in my DMs, or you can go to drwilliampclark.com and just click on schedule free consult. Good morning, Jay Charity. What are your thoughts about this topic? Welcome to the podcast.
Good morning. I haven't developed a system that is winning. I mean, I have God's grace and favor. We laughing, but
it's real. It ain't enough though.
I put up a flyer and say disaster relief is happening. People send money through Cash App, Facebook. Churches send me checks. It's the most amazing thing. Churches I don't even know. This last cycle sent me checks for like $1,800, $1,200. I was like, Chad, I didn't even know you could do that. So I'm just thankful for God's favor. So I can't give anyone any advice on a winning system.
So what's your question, right? Like, what's the pain point? Because I think your pain point, and if you feel comfortable sharing that, can help someone kind of think through their own pain points. Like, what's your pain point around not having a system but wanting to continue to do the good work you do?
I don't always have the confidence in the conversation, if that makes sense. I'm very confident in putting a flyer up. I'm very confident in, sponsoring ads on social media. But when it comes to having the conversation face to face, I feel like I get tongue tied. I don't know what to say all the time. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to be offensive. And so I tend to just become very quiet, if you can believe that or not, when it comes to my fundraising. And I think a lot of it is because when I first started my company, I reached out to a few major pastors. And two said to me, well, why would we use you? You're not ordained. You're not licensed as a preacher. What do you know? And I took that to heart. I took it extremely hard. And I asked our national convention to just affirm me in the space of helping churches find new pastors and things like that. And it just became a mess. Not necessarily a mess, but they wouldn't do it because of reasons that were unrelated to my expertise or education. And so I don't always know what to say or how to say. But what I have learned through Clubhouse is some of my connections can help me with that. like even with you, I've learned so much just by listening and trying to make the connections and connect dots in ways where I don't always have to be very vocal. So
Yeah.
that is my main, that is my biggest pain point. If I had to be honest about it, my pain point.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. Having met you over Clubhouse and just obviously this is an audible, vocal based app. I would have never associated with you with the word lack of confidence, right? Because you just exude it. But I hear you though. I would say just a couple of thoughts here, and hopefully you find this helpful. And I think you already started this, right? You talked about finding your tribe. You found people on Clubhouse, social media, elsewhere, who who have a connection with you. Me being one of them, right? How it happens, Lord only knows, right? But you have a connection with those people. I think, Jay Charity, you already have a system that kind of works, and I believe this is an opportunity to continue to build it out. You did say to us that ads and flyers do work for you. You put them out there, and somehow, some way, people see it, and money starts flowing in for the cause that you're raising money for. I believe the system is in what already works for you. Clearly, you have a tribe. Clearly, you know how to hit a button and release information, and money flows in. I think the opportunity for you, G Charity, if you will, in terms of this system, it's a three-part, right? The second part, which I believe would be the missing link, is educating your tribe on what you're looking for and what you need and when you need it. Okay. So you find your tribe and you grow it. You educate them on what you care about when you're raising money, and you deploy, hit the button. And the fourth thing I'll tell you to do when it comes to that system is do it consistently, right? Do it repeatedly. What I would encourage everyone to do as they listen to this podcast, live podcast recording, is when you're developing systems, you can't do a system and do it once. It's like going to the gym once and saying, all right, I didn't lose any weight. What's the problem? No, you got to go over and over and over again. Same thing with your diet. You got to change your diet consistently. You can't eat a salad for lunch and think you're going to lose weight and feel great like for the next 30, 60 days. It's not how that works. And fundraising and raising money or resources is the same way. People need to know that you're always in the business of accomplishing something or doing something. And they always need to know that you're always in the business and your door is always open to receive dollars to make that happen. And this is why you're able to sell on a moment's notice, because it's not about, hey, I need money for this. Hey, I need money for that. No, it's about, hey, we're working on this particular project. We're getting results here. We're noticing these particular outcomes. And we're always looking for ways to expand our reach, to expand our ability to do the work. And we could use your partnership and help to make that happen. Do you know of any grant opportunities coming up over the next 30 to 90 days where we can apply? We're looking to raise about $125,000. Do you know of any donors who are looking to partner with this particular effort? And we're looking to, bring in about 15 donors who can give about $25,000 to this particular cause, etc. And notice, Jay Charity, as I'm having this conversation, I'm educating my tribe on what I'm looking for. Here's another way of doing it, right? I go live as often as I can in Clubhouse, right? With the expressed intention of educating, empowering, and sharing. But notice every so often I reset the room by stating, and I'm about to do it right now, real time. This particular podcast is brought to us and sponsored by the Nonprofit Fundraising Masterclass. If you're looking to simplify your fundraising results, 10x your results, and get greater board engagement, you need to be part of this masterclass. How do you do it? Submit your application by going to nonprofitfundraisingstrategies.com. Again, it's nonprofitfundraisingstrategies.com, or tap on my photo and go to my link in my bio, or DM me on Instagram and tell me, Dr. Clark, I need the masterclass application. I'm selling. I'm fundraising. I'm bringing people into whatever I have available. If I'm not responsible enough to remind people of what I have available and what I offer to them that can help them, I can't expect people to buy their seat, which has sold out. I can't expect people to get on the wait list for the current or next cohort, right? So we have a responsibility to be consistent in our messaging when it comes to sales, when it comes to fundraising. And I would encourage you, Jay Charity, if you can, if you notice that people give to you because you're a trusted voice and what they gave for, you might want to find that thing that you're always fundraising for, knowing it's going to happen or knowing that it's happening, so that that event or that experience or that life situation that you fundraise for is associated with your name, so people can consistently give, not just once a quarter or not just twice a year, but daily. Does that help?
It does, and it actually kind of um, confirms. I went and had a meeting with the Community Foundation of Mississippi, so you just confirmed that that was a good decision. Um, so yeah, and I'm going to take all of this and put some practical application there. So thanks.
Awesome, awesome sauce. Lakeisha, good morning. Welcome to the podcast. What are your thoughts, questions about this particular topic?
Good morning, Doctor. First of all, you have dropped some gems down here in this episode of your podcast. Honestly, you've pretty much just confirmed everything that I've been doing. I truly knew for a fact that in order to continue to build my nonprofit, to understand, myself, okay, what do I love? What am I doing? And is my tribe building the same things? I knew that, I love my team of people, but at the same time, are they able to give me the value that I needed, moving forward? But honestly, if they don't, it's okay to say, what, they're not going to be adequate for my vision and my nonprofit versus my for-profit.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I build now, I build with clarity now, and not with trying to make sure everybody feels good, because it's all about, this dominating, as far as what I'm doing in my career field. It's like, sometimes, I love my family. I truly love them. But at the same time, I can't win for them. They got to win for themselves, but I can support them. And honestly, a lot of times, I've been doing a lot. I've been doing I'm so nervous. I've been doing disservice to them by carrying them to blend in my vision when they don't require that. They didn't ask for that, because I'm trying to support them. No, I'm winning for you. Let's go. And it was just a service. I began to see that a lot when my kids started to get older. Okay, just give you a background. I have 3 boys. One son, he's 18 now. One's getting ready to graduate. That's my 18-year-old. Then I also have my 15-year-old, and then we have a 7-year-old boy. And I said, I didn't really notice it until they got older, so my vision became clear where, wait a minute, what am I doing? Okay, my for-profit is a blessing, but my nonprofit is my goal. That is my dream, focus-driven. I honestly, my dream was always to give clarity when it comes to that for women, not only just domestic violence, but clarity as far as understanding, psychological abuse. That was huge for me, because that happened to me. My ex-husband, not just him, just people I was collecting over years as friendships, were gaslighting me. So how did I stop that? So pretty much building my team was equated to that. I needed to understand, why am I building the same people? So I had to learn to break that, doctor. I had to learn to break that path and collecting that. So I love my podcast. I love my podcast, but at the same time, I was building my podcast with the same type of people, and they were a blessing, right? But I had to learn how to stop it. So I had to, look, I'm going to step back. Let me just sit and go ahead and move forward ahead with understanding why I'm doing this. So, doctor, my question pretty much right now is, just as I'm building my podcast, which I have great information and resources to do that, I can just build it not with having the structure, because like you're doing, this is so awesome. Like building it this way, that you're building it, just go ahead and go live. Boom, let's go. That was my question. Am I right? This is crazy. I'm so happy. This is Lakeisha. I'm done speaking.
I'm glad you're happy. So rehash your question for me so I can make sure I give you a good answer.
So my question is just clarity on how to structure my podcast now, because now my podcast, I have it. I have my title. I have my verbiage. I used to have a scripture at the end, and then I would have my closing, and then I would just have my podcast saved and just reload it, and it would get so much information, so many views, just because it came from an authentic voice. You know, my energy, it means a lot. So that's what my question was. Should I keep building it that way, or just go ahead and just, sharing knowledge, just sharing it?
Yeah, I mean, you build it however you feel it, right? And I'm not going to pontificate about, what podcast structure should or shouldn't be. That's not necessarily the space I'm in. But I will say and encourage you as you do what you do, to be authentically you. That is probably the most important advice I can give as it relates to the podcast. Because you got to remember, podcasts are a fairly new phenomenon in the grand scheme of communication, mass communication, etc., and all that we got going on as a society. Podcasts were preceded by talk radio, right? That's what my dad was into, and that's kind of how I got into it. And podcasts kind of became the new wave for people with mobile devices. And so when people decide to jump into your podcast or into your clubhouse room, which is what we're doing right now, we're doing both at the same time. Welcome to the Dr. William Clark podcast. People are jumping in because they've built a connection with you. And the funny thing about podcasts is that you'll get all the types of plays, and I know the type of plays I get and the amount of audience I have, but I have never been able to actually interact with the audience in a real way outside of reviews or rating or sharing. And even then, that's somewhat anonymous. And so the what Clubhouse has done for people like me, perhaps people like you who love to communicate audibly or at least wants to touch people on a regular basis, it allows me to do what I do best, and that's talk and teach. And I get to hear from you guys now, and it's on the podcast, and you guys get to replay it. And so I would encourage you to just sit down for a moment and structure it the way you feel it and just do it. And what will happen is, is that the people who are part of your tribe, the people who are listening to you, the people who care about your content and topic, they will let you know if they're feeling it. And how do you know? The numbers. They'll show up and they'll interact. They'll show up or they'll be quiet. They'll show up and shoot you a DM, or they won't show up at all. And from there, you start to figure it out step by step. And I will encourage you, once you start, don't stop. No matter what happens, no matter if it stinks, no matter if you coughing all over the place, no matter if you have a bunch of ums and ahs, no matter if you got noise in the background, keep doing it, keep doing it. What you'll find out is that it's a natural experience. It's just completely natural. I try to be as natural as possible, and that's what people want. They want to connect with you. They're not trying to connect with a system per se. They want to know that they have you as a connecting point for their journey. Does that help?
Dr. Clark, you gave me a gem. Listen, I praise God for you, and I definitely thank God everything that you're giving me, because it's truly, truly needed. Thank you so much. Keisha, I'm done speaking.
Awesome sauce, and I appreciate you, and I pray that you continue to grow on your journey, because there are people who need to hear your story and how you have overcome and how they can overcome as well. Letitia, my sister from another mister, what's going on? What are your thoughts about this topic?
Hey, Dr. Clark. Actually, I was out walking and I saw you were in a room, so I jumped in because I am always learning. I'm new to the nonprofit space, so I'm looking to develop winning systems to raise money. And I guess the one question I would have would be, how do I find my community that would be willing to give? And I guess my thing is, I don't always want to come off like every time I see you, I need money, or I'm asking for money, even though I'm always asking. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at. Hence the reason I'm in your master class as well, to learn about fundraising and getting the message out, so that we can, of course, reach the mission. That's all I have. This is Letitia. I'm done speaking.
Okay, got it. There was a lot of feedback there, but I got the point of the question. So let me repeat the question, guys. She was asking how to find donors who want to give. Now, This is a somewhat simple but complicated question, because it's different for everybody. And she also mentioned she's a part of the masterclass, which is a great plug there. And I think, folks, if you're not a part of the fundraising masterclass, shoot me a DM and ask me for the application to join, or go to nonprofitfundingstrategies.com to submit your application. Listen, when it comes to finding your funders, I try to answer that last, because what's most important about the journey of fundraising is understanding you as an organization, right? Who are you, and what are you here to do? What's your mission? What's your purpose? If there's no clarity in that space, then you will never find your funder, because lack of clarity means you're going to be spitballing who you think your funder is, throwing something against the wall to see what sticks, and then going with that, and it still may be absolutely wrong. Clarity on who you are, clarity on who you're serving, clarity on your purpose, your singular purpose. Hear me, guys. Your singular purpose puts you in position now to understand who your donor is. I've come across a lot of nonprofit creators and founders, and sometimes leaders of existing entities that have way too many projects going on, way too many interests, way too many varied desires to see fulfilled, to the point that it convolutes and dilutes their ability to articulate why they are here and why people should care about their organization, let alone give. So what we're going to cover in the masterclass, Letitia, and for others who have signed up or who are curious about it, I'm not even going to talk about raising money, because it doesn't even matter. Money doesn't even matter if you don't know what your message is. We're going to talk about the right strategy to build a successful program and raise money at the same time. It doesn't matter where it comes from. It doesn't matter who it is, because the reality is, and if I can just be honest for a moment, the source of money is going to come from a variety of places, and oftentimes places that you've never even thought about. People you've never even come across. Institutions that you've never heard of, who heard about you, they're sending you money. It's a strange thing about how referrals work. It's a strange thing how networking works. What's more important is for you to do what you do. And at this early juncture, it's more important to work on the strategy that's associated with building solid programs that become attractive to a would-be donor, whether it's a large-scale donor, whether it's an individual donor, whether it's an event-based donor, whether it's a partner who becomes a donor, whether it's a sponsor who becomes a donor, or everything in between. When you know what you're doing, when you know how to do it, when you know how to solve problems for your targeted audience, you're going to automatically attract people who care about the same thing. Then we can answer the question of, well, who cares about this? Why do they care? Why are they giving? Why are they releasing their dollars? And how do we position ourselves to do more of what we do so that they can see this work and give to it? Does that make sense, Letitia?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Awesome sauce. Guys, I'm going to pause for a quick moment because I need to reset the podcast. Hold on for a quick moment. All right, and we're back, guys. Let me reset the stage really quick. This is Dr. William Clark for the Dr. William Clark podcast. This podcast talks about exclusively how to simplify your fundraising strategies for your nonprofit organization. If that's what you're into, you're in the right place. Welcome to the folks in Clubhouse. Welcome to the podcast audience. Just want to let you know, remind you that this particular podcast episode is sponsored by the Nonprofit Fundraising Strategies Academy. This masterclass program was designed by nonprofit leaders for nonprofit leaders with the express purpose of helping you simplify your fundraising approaches, 10x results, and increase board engagement around fundraising. If you have yet to raise $50,000 a year, and hear me good, if you have yet to raise $50,000 a year annually for your nonprofit organization, this masterclass is for you. Our masterclass starts in about 2 weeks on May 4th as of this recording, and we are completely filled, but we are taking folks on the wait list. So if you're looking to join this particular cohort, submit your application to join this particular masterclass, the fundraising masterclass, by going to nonprofitfundingstrategies.com. Again, that's nonprofitfundingstrategies.com, or tap my profile, send me a DM, and ask me for the masterclass application. I'll be glad to share it with you. And let's go back to our show. Lacey, welcome to the stage. What's your question or comment about this topic?
walked away from my phone.
It's all right.
I was listening.
It's quite all right.
Well, so I took over a failing organization in May of last year to actually close it down, and I got 2 weeks into the role. I turned to my board chair and I said, "There's no way we can't do this. There's too many people that depend on our organization and the services that we provide. We would let down the entire community. We have to figure this out." So I created a program, and I raised $150,000. However, I feel now like those individuals who donated have an expectation of something in return because of the type of program that I created. And so now I'm at kind of a crossroad of, do I need to redefine my donors? Do I need to look at more foundation support? Kind of lost at this juncture because although it was a success, I feel like part of it was a failure because of the expectations of wanting something in return. And it's not, let me define this expectation. It isn't seeing a return in the community. It's seeing a return from them individually. Does that make sense?
Can you say more about the individual return that they're looking for?
So I created a Caregivers Resource Center, and that program provides navigational support and assistance to families that are facing senior care decisions. And in that, I put together I do a comprehensive assessment. I understand where their holes and their gaps are, and I put their puzzle together for them. And in that puzzle piecing together for them, I introduce them to providers, services, funding sources. I clean their slate, and I give them a well-defined map that they're making good decisions and they're having positive outcomes for the benefit of the senior that they're caring for. So when a majority of my donors are from the healthcare spectrum, senior healthcare spectrum. So I feel pressure from them that they want something in return, as in being me referring them. And I'm a very ethical person, and I'm just not going to refer. If it's not the right fit, I'm not sending a referral to someone.
Okay.
So that's been a huge challenge. I mean, to the point to where, like, I have one specific donor that if I could just give their money back and say, "Here you go," it would take it off my conscience.
And are you in position to give the money back, or you already spent it?
No, I'm in a position to give it back.
So, I mean, to be blunt, why not give it back so you can get them off your back?
Good question. I mean, I don't know. There's a perspective of fear there.
Okay.
Fear of failure, fear of, I don't know. And what's crazy to me is the size of the organization. This is a national company that they donated $3,500. It wasn't an extreme amount. And you're going to part hairs over not receiving something in return. And to me, it doesn't align with I don't want to burn a bridge either.
Yeah. Okay.
Because of their potential for future support.
For future good. Yeah. All right. So let's kind of work through this a little bit, right? Nonprofit leaders are notorious for being fearful about burning bridges, hurting feelings. I do want to remind folks that if you're leading a nonprofit organization, you are leading a business. I want to remind you of this. A nonprofit institution is nothing more than a business structure that just so happens to not pay taxes. If you are
100%,
right,
100% agree with you.
Right. So at this juncture, I'm not talking to Lacey. I'm talking to the CEO of whatever the name of this organization is, and so we need to talk shop. Right. You're running a business. And at the end of the day, what you decided to do was to take over a failing business. You've invested your reputation, your career, and your know-how to do so. And apparently, you did a heck of a job for you to raise $150,000 from nothing and kept the doors open. And so now you're at a point of figuring out, like, how do you move forward consistently with the right people that don't make you feel some type of way. We opened up the show talking about PSPs, which are patterns, systems, and processes. And what it describes is a way of doing business within your organization. It also describes your organizational culture. I will say to you, and for any leader, any business leader who's listening, that culture matters. Yes, you have bottom line desires and needs to meet that are really important, but culture matters. If at any time you feel uncomfortable, which clearly you feel like you do, you feel uncomfortable now, you need to target that and identify what the heck is making me feel that way. And I really think this is a healthy exercise because before you make any rash decisions, it's going to be important for you to identify what's making you feel this way so that you can figure out who is your target donor. Before you give any money back, before you, quote, burn any bridges, describe what makes you feel right as a leader. Now, my hope is that you do this without mixing any feelings or emotions in it, right? Because you don't want that to cloud your decision. You don't want that to be the limiting factor into how you make the decisions. But you want to make decisions as clear-headed as possible, however you define that. So who's the right donor for me and this company? Not nonprofit, this company. Who aligns with our values and our goals? Are those values and goals clearly documented everywhere you see our logo and name so that people who decide to partner with us, people who decide to support us, people who decide to sponsor us, they know what we stand for, they know what we're about. So when they decide to come into our ecosystem, they know what they're getting themselves into. And then third, once we start the recruitment process, whether we initiate it or it's initiated by someone else, we're going to hold fast to these values and principles and goals that we've clearly identified to make sure that before people fork over whatever amount of money they're giving, they're also signing off on being a supporter of what we value. Now, let me just say here, I don't know all the details of what your program offers, the relationship with funders. I will say this. It seems as though you've developed some version of a sponsorship revenue source where these entities are giving dollars to your nonprofit. And quite frankly, I think it's kind of ingenious that you went to the industry leaders themselves to help solve the problem of giving money to your organization. I think when you think about sponsorships in that way, or if you haven't thought about it, consider that this is what sponsorships look like.
That is exactly our program.
Okay, so sponsor.
There's levels. There's 3 levels of sponsors.
So with that being said, which is really critical, and for folks who need to understand how sponsorships work, shoot me a DM really quick and say, Dr. Clark, send me the blurb on how to close a sponsor. I will do that in the next break or so, because I think what Lacey's done is genius, right? But you also got to understand, and I'll send this blurb out whoever asks for it. When you collect money from a sponsor, you got to understand they want something in return. And I love this example, right? So, for example, they give you X number of dollars to name the lunchroom at your facility, or to name the lunchroom or the community room where you have your meetings with families. And it's called the Clark Family Decision Room, whatever the case may be. In order to have naming rights over that decision, over that room, I, as a sponsoring entity, I understand I'm giving in exchange for naming rights cash, right, to have my name on that wall. And I also am asking, as a part of the agreement, that you put my name of my senior care facility, Clark Family Services, whatever, on that particular wall in that room. And I'm asking you to, every time you send people to that room, to reference the name of the room. The room is not Conference Room A anymore. The name of the conference room is the Clark Family Services Room. We're going to meet there for our session. And I'm also asking that you refer folks to our services that meet the following criteria. Right now, in order to get to this point of having a healthy relationship with sponsors, this is information for all nonprofits. You got to know what you're asking for, which is the dollar amounts. Clearly, Lacey, you have 3 levels, and good for you. But you got to also be clear about what you're willing to give. right? There has to be a standard of what you're giving in exchange, because I, as a business owner, don't want to spend my marketing dollars on this sponsorship without realizing any return on it. So I think there's a reasonable expectation to have of these businesses to have return. It may make you feel a little queasy, but I would encourage you to have that conversation. If you haven't done so already, to clearly articulate what do you want and what are we willing to give. And if it's not a match, let me give your money back so I, Lacey, can reset.
I love it. Thank you. I want to talk to you on a sidebar.
Yeah.
Even if it means paying you for a consulting fee too. I'll do it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, Lacey, when you're not driving, because we want you to be safe, touch my picture in the profile. Go to my.
I've already sent you a message.
Okay.
Too late. I'm too late. I'm already ahead of you.
So.
You were speaking to my soul this morning, brother.
So
Thank you.
no problem. When I get the next break, I'll send you the link. The consult is free. At least the first one is free. Let me just say that. Not going to leave any money on the table, right? The first one's free. Do want to talk about this. I really want to work through this with you because I love when nonprofits figure out other revenue sources, and I love this example about sponsorships. And I get it, right? This is not about you, Lacey, right? This is about just the mental shift we as an industry, as a cohort of nonprofit leaders need to make. How to make money, and then how to lead businesses that make money that happen to be tax exempt. So I'm looking forward to this conversation, Lacey. I'm excited for your success and excited for what you got going on, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. AJ, welcome to the Dr. William Clark podcast. What's your question or topic about? Or what's your question or comment about the topic today?
Hi, I don't have a question. I see that Lacey's gone. I was going to add some, but she's gone. Thank you for bringing me up on stage. Just here to share with adding value, and that's really basically about it.
Okay. What do you care to share today?
In regards to what Lacey was just talking about, I think it's important for all of you to understand. Doctor, you're absolutely right in regards to setting expectations, but it's also important that you confirm what they're receiving and you actually activate and follow through with the benefits that they're supposed to be receiving. It's really, really important that you follow through and then you overthank your donors, especially when it comes to sponsorships, because the people that are helping to donate for your event or for your cause, your organization, they're the ones that are supporting and helping to drive your mission. So cultivating them as much as possible and keeping in contact with them as much as possible is also very important.
Yeah, no, that's really, really good. And I do want to kind of just continue the conversation about sponsorships because that's a wonderful revenue source. And for those who may not know what we're talking about, sponsors, and I'm not talking about sponsors of your event or people who get a half-page ad in your booklet. I'm talking about people who sponsor your program all year round. Why is this important? Why does it matter? Well, it's a significant revenue opportunity for your nonprofit organization. Think about this. There are a number of for-profit entities and organizations that have a marketing budget, and they have a budget that they want to spend every year. During the pandemic, the highways have been pretty clear, right? I've been riding into the office on my motorcycle the past couple months, free, clear highways. And the billboards, they're there. People are still marketing there, but the eyeballs aren't there, right? What if there was a situation where a business owner knew that there were eyeballs, there were people, there were butts and seats in a congregated location, even if it's virtual, where they can market their product or service to? And what if that place was your nonprofit organization? And what I'm talking about, guys, is viewing your nonprofit. Listen, you're doing a good work, you're serving the community, you're solving problems. That's one side of the work, the heart work. Heart, the hard work of the nonprofit industry. There's the business side of the work as well. The business side that says we got to keep the lights on. The business side that says we got to pay staff. The business side that says, we got to pay rent. The business side that says we got to get more laptops and tablets for staff, internet services for staff. We need to increase salaries for staff. We need to get 401k, retirement, time off, bonuses, etc. for staff. There's the business side of all this stuff. And people are the biggest expense of your nonprofit organization and program. Flat out. And so to afford that, yes, you go after grants, yes. But sponsorships could be amazing. And what if you were able to talk to for-profit businesses about sharing their marketing budget with you to spend it on your program as a sponsor? And in exchange, they get naming rights. In exchange, you promote their product. Don't do it if you don't believe in it. But if you believe in it, promote their product. Encourage your customers to go to your sponsor's establishment to patronize, to buy a vehicle from them, to buy a house through their realty business, to rent a house from them, because they understand your clientele. Encourage them to, utilize their services for whatever life challenge that they're overcoming. It can work, guys. There's so many opportunities there, and I think sponsorship dollars is a wonderful way to generate revenue for your nonprofit, as well as supporting the needs of your customer. Appreciate that. AJ, did you have anything else you wanted to share? All right, AJ, there you go.
No, sorry. Yep.
All right, cool. Nicole, welcome to the stage. Welcome to the Dr. William Clark podcast. What are your thoughts or questions about this topic?
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for the invite. I am coming just to absorb some information. I am a master educator, and my focus has always has been both adults and children.
Mm-hmm.
And I created this program, Legacy Prep, which is a program designed to aid children with a focus on, leadership, entrepreneurship, social justice and community activism, violence prevention, financial literacy, etiquette, Black history, college and career readiness, communication. I could go on. But the reason why I created this is because I'm an educator and I see kids and I see their deficits, right? And so I created this curriculum, and I kind of have been sitting here just wondering. Everybody says go for it, do the nonprofit thing, so that's what I did. I've never had a desire to run a nonprofit, and it's quite honestly, it's daunting to me about how to do it effectively, because that's my real concern. For me, this work that I've done is my purpose, and it's very important to me. And so how I proceed with it is equally important. And so I'm moving forward in terms of the programming and how to just get it out there. Do I, with this nonprofit, do I actually go out, seek sponsors, create a mentorship program, or seek funding to create a mentorship program locally? However, my goal is really a loftier goal, and that's to get it out worldwide. And how do I get sponsors to, if I'm not doing a sit down or donors, if I'm not doing a program where I'm sitting in front of people doing it, my goal is to put it online, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that even if a child is not in a mentoring program, they can have access to this training, because it really is training, right? And not have to have their parents come out of pocket for it. And so that is my goal. My goal is to get funding to create this program and to put it out on a worldwide scale so that kids have access to change and, to a lot of things that they need that they may not necessarily have at their fingertips. So my question is, how do I create this thing, or take this thing that I've created and have people and have sponsors and donors understand first what it is, the importance of it, and then fund it in a way. There's not a child in a seat. They don't see the children. You understand? So they don't know, or there's not a building, or there's not a, and so that is my challenge.
So have
You
you?
understand what?
Yeah, I do to a degree. Walk me through a little bit more, right, before I answer this question. What have you been able to do up to this point to kind of get things going, or haven't done anything yet?
Yes, we have created a program.
Okay.
I have launched the program, the curriculum locally through other organizations. Like we have a tennis organization here that has a after school program, and they use Legacy Prep. I also have there's a church group that is also using it. So I've been able to test the curriculum and modify it. I've been doing it for 5 years, and so we've been able to test it and modify the actual curriculum, which is my specialty. And so that's the easy part for me. The part about getting it into the hands of other children and having them have access to it, easy access to it, is, it's my issue.
Okay. So there are a couple of things I want to help you think through. Let me see here. Nicole, hold on one moment. I just want to make sure that I make this sponsorship thing available. Folks, give me a quick moment. Don't y'all hate when you're trying to do something real quick and it ain't working? Or maybe it's just me. You guys are quiet. All right. So, really quick, guys, if you want the sponsorship information, I've made it available on. Oh man, I made it available on the Dr. William Clark Facebook page, so that is there. So, Nicole, there are a couple of things that kind of want to walk through. I think that anything can become a nonprofit. Let me just say that. Anything can become a nonprofit. I did peep what you said, that you called yourself a master educator, which is really interesting. Is there context behind that statement? Is that like a terminology that's used by the industry or folks that do what you do?
Well, it means that I've been educated on educating. It means that I've done it at a master's level, which means I've been awarded for my ability to educate. That's what it means to me. I don't think that there is a specific certification for a master educator, but that's what it means to me. And so that's the term that I use for myself, because in this particular area, not every area, I am a master educator. So yeah, that's why I use the term.
Okay. All right. And with the curriculum that you've piloted already, you mentioned a lot of topics. When you said you piloted, did you pilot all of the topics to your target audience?
I piloted. What happens is with the curriculum, the organizations are able to cherry pick based on their population of students.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody will need everything. Like some of one of the organizations chose not to do the social justice and community activism, and the Black history in college and career readiness. So, they get to cherry pick and do what they think is most effective, because it is an extensive curriculum. It's not something that's small, and they have other things to do. So they get to cherry pick. They don't have to use everything.
And when they cherry pick, when people cherry pick, are you then teaching what they want, or is the content already recorded? Like,
no, the content is in. The content is or they can download the curriculum. There have been cases, like with a tennis program, that I actually rolled out the program and I taught, and that was specifically to train their counselors how to do it. But in general, it's a curriculum either that you can find online, it's a curriculum that you can download, or it's a curriculum that you can receive an actual textbook.
Okay, but the curriculum is already designed. And then what outcomes are you targeting for students that take your classes?
Well, the outcomes of it, since there's so many things that are being covered, specifically, let's just take one thing in particular. When we talk about, let's take something like communication, and we teach communication with teachers, parents, and peers, right? So you have a student that is having trouble in school. One of the things, of course, is they don't get the actual content of what they're learning. But the other problem is that they're not communicating well what their issue is with their teacher. So some of the things that we teach them to do, we have this particular form that they give to their teacher, or it's a guideline, and it actually says, okay, hey, these are my goals for your class at the beginning of the year. These are my goals for your class, and we kind of run them through. There's a form for it. They can either fill out the form or they can write it themselves and give to the teacher. Here, these are my goals. And then somewhere midway in between, we tell them about 4 weeks. There's another conversation that they get to have with the teacher, and we run them through that. Okay, this is how far I've come in reaching those goals, and this is how I feel about the content. Am I understanding it? What can the teacher help me with? To go through all of those things with the teacher. And so we teach them how to communicate on, just like on every level. And we have, an outline for them to go by. And so the outcome is for us, is for them to, one, become better communicators, and communication will end up, with the communication, they'll end up getting a better grade in the class. That's the general idea. Right?
And is this more, would you consider this more tutoring services, more aids to the student while they're taking a particular class?
We don't offer tutoring. We just, one of the thing that we offer is just, I guess it's more like life skills. For example, when we also teach entrepreneurship. And so we teach them, and it depends on how deep they want to go, because there's different modules in entrepreneurship, and they can cherry pick those. How to brand a business, how to, those kinds of things. So it ranges, and we target ages 8 through 18. So, like I said, it's a very big curriculum.
Yeah, and the reason why I brought up the whole is it like not mentoring, but tutoring. Not that you guys do the tutoring yourself, but do people view this as a form of tutoring? Do people view this as a form of aids in in the education of their child?
I think so, yes.
Okay. And so the question you're now asking is, how do you take this platform that you've developed online to distribute it more?
Right. The goal is, and I don't know if, for me, I would like to put it in the hands of people, not only that want it and may not be able to pay for something like this, like a lot of people, or may not have the time. For example, some children can't get to a club or don't have access to after school programs, where they can access it online at no charge, that it'll be something that they can actually have.
Right.
This takes our goal is to create an app so that in the morning, when the kid gets up, they'll have someone like you pop up on their screen with a message, a motivational message about the day or the morning, or what they should be, So I want to get this into the hands of children, and families for little to no cost. And that is something that, I don't have money to build an app. That would be the most effective way, I believe. And so fundraising for that, and asking people, if they don't have a building to put their name on or a room, how do you ask someone to, this will benefit kids? I don't know how I can create a benefit for the donors, the sponsors.
Gotcha. All right. So let's kind of walk through this. One, I'm going to encourage you, Nicole, schedule a consult with me so we can talk about this more. I'm going to share some thoughts with you about what you can do. I think the place where we can start is to make sure that your message is super clear, right, and super simple. I think that we can rush the process without having major clarity on what we're doing, who we're doing it for, and why, right? Donors, whether they're large scale, small scale, individual donors, or system or donors who are coming from a large foundation base, they give because they know what you do and they know it inside and out, and you've made it super simple for them. If that's not the case, then you're going to have to work hard to kind of figure out how do you distill your message down to bite-sized chunks that your supporters can understand readily. Notice how we had this conversation and I had a series of questions just to kind of better understand what's going on. And that speaks to the need to possibly figure out how to tighten your message. The second thing I would advise you to do is to figure out how to consistently and clearly measure outcomes. Because if people view your product as a form of tutoring or as a form of supplemental education for their child who is struggling in this particular academic area, or you have homeschool parents who want to use this as an aid, then you need to be in a position to collect data that says when kids subscribe to our platform or utilize our content, here's the measurable increase that we notice in their academics or in some portion of their life. That measurable outcome puts you in position now to have a coherent story that you can tell to donors. The story to donors is not about the one kid you helped that changed their life. The story to donors is, hey, we've helped X number of kids see measurable increases in the following categories. And the categories can't be random. The categories have to be specific to education, since you're a master educator. It has to be specific to a thing that donors care about. You're going to have different donors that care about different things, but for the majority of them, you want to speak to what they care about in general. Is it academics? Is it attendance? Is it attention to detail? Is it, absenteeism? Is it suspensions? Whatever the case may be, you need to talk about the thing your donors care deeply about. So again, you want to focus on tightening your mission, right? You want to focus on measuring outcomes. And then when you have those things in place, it's different when you start to pitch donors, right? And it's not about you're going to get everybody to say yes, but the conversations are much more fluid and much more calm and much more consistent when you know what you're saying, how you're going to say it, and the person you're pitching has a distinct interest in what you have to say. And so I think there are several funding options you can make available. You can obviously have a paid version that prices out the full curriculum in its fullness and in its entirety, and you need to price it out appropriately, right? And when I mean appropriate, I mean don't go cheap because you're trying to make it, quote, affordable. I'm going to get to that in a minute. You want to have the full scale price for everything, because there are families out there who believe in what you're teaching or believe in whatever you're selling and heard your pitch and said, I want to buy that for my kid. Whether I'm homeschooling, whether they're in public school, private school, whether I'm doing summer camp with them, whatever, sell it full price. You're going to have people who are doing summer camps, right? I'm talking about churches, formal summer camps, getaway camps, whatever the case may be, and they may have an education component. What better way than to use your curriculum as the foundation for that curriculum? Sell it for full price. Don't go cheap. and don't cheapen the value of it, right? You also want to have bundles, smaller bundles, and I think you kind of started this, where people can select the bundle that they need. I wouldn't make it as customizable as they want, because then it kind of dilutes the value. I would recommend you bundle it according to certain topics or subject areas, so that you make it available in bite-sized chunks in terms of information and bite-sized chunks in terms of affordability. So let's say you decide to charge $497 for your full curriculum. Don't know if that's the right price, but let's say it is. You may have bundles that are priced at $99 and bundles that are priced at $297, and you determine which goes in which bundles. Your lowest price is $99 for XYZ in that bundle. So now you have people in a position where they can buy multiple bundles and pay way and above what they need to pay at $99 times whatever, or they can just buy it up front. The cheapest price is $497, right? Now, for the people who can't afford it, and I do want to talk about the online component too. For the people who can't afford to download, this is where you have sponsors. When you say, hey, we've been doing really well. We've been selling quite a bit of units, and we're getting awesome feedback from parents who are noticing changes in their kids. I mean, the parents that we're serving are saying that their kids are seeing about a 20% increase in their performance in school, where kids are going from C's to B's and B's to A's, right? We're noticing kids are paying more attention in school. Fewer kids, about 20% of our kids have seen a significant reduction in their suspension rates or absenteeism rates, so on and so on. So you want to talk about the stats, but then when you talk to your donors and sponsors, you want to talk about, hey, but we noticed that there are a group of kids who really could benefit from this and could use these results and outcomes, but they can't afford it. So we're building a portfolio of sponsors who will buy curriculum for the target audience. That's how you get it into the hands of people who can't afford it. You have sponsors pay for it. And then you have families who are on a low income scale apply for a scholarship. And that scholarship is paid for by your sponsors. We want to thank our lead sponsors, Company A, Company B, Company C, who have made X number of slots and downloads available to families. And again, when we talked about sponsors and naming rights, you can have a chief sponsor and name the school or curriculum after them, and it could be a 3-year contract, where now you're talking about our school, which is called the Legacy Prep School. Our title program, our $497 program, is now the Clark Automotive Group education platform, whatever the case may be, right? Be creative. But now you have naming rights for this particular company that speaks to their commitment. And then you have other sponsors at a lower level who can have naming rights or recognition for other things. For parents that come in to buy the product, for parents that come in to download the product for free, they all see the name of your sponsors. And it allows your sponsors to get eyeballs. Remember, that's what sponsors are paying for. They're marketing. They have marketing dollars. They're paying for access to your customer. That's a strategy you can use to get it for free into the hands of families. I recommend you get into my DMs and set up a consult with me, Nicole, so we can talk about it much more. Does that help?
That was super helpful. I appreciate your comments. I really do. That just a couple of points that I thought were really brilliant. So, and I definitely will be emailing you. Thank you so much.
Awesome sauce. Guys, as we reset the room, I want to welcome everybody into the room. Glad to have you along for this ride. This is the Dr. William Clark podcast. This is the podcast where we simplify fundraising results and strategies for your nonprofit organization. This particular episode is sponsored by the Nonprofit Fundraising Masterclass. If you are in need of coaching in the area of fundraising, such as what we're doing live in this particular podcast and in Clubhouse, and you want to develop the winning strategies that can help you raise serious money for your nonprofit organization, we're talking about 6 figures and 7 figures for your nonprofit organizations or programs, join this particular masterclass. Submit your application by going to nonprofitfundingstrategies.com. Again, that's nonprofitfundingstrategies.com, and submit your application to join, or shoot me a DM and say, Dr. Clark, I need an application for the masterclass. I'll be glad to get it out to you. Next to the stage, we have Dr. Gail Lewis. Dr. Lewis, how are you?
I am outstanding, and I apologize for the background noise because I'm driving.
It's all right, as long as you're safe. Welcome to the stage. What's your comment or question about this topic?
Not a question, just a comment. I just wanted to say that the information that you just provided, Nicole, was phenomenal. Having been in the nonprofit space and operated in the nonprofit space for probably over 20 years, the thing that I always see is that we get so hung up on the mission or the what it is that we're doing that we lose sight of how to explain it to people in a way that makes them want to support us and give us money. And it's important to always remember that even though we are nonprofit organizations, we are a business and we have responsibilities to our customers and to our community. And to fulfill those responsibilities and those obligations, we have to always be thinking of how we can monetize or value the services that we provide so that we can explain that to people who want money, whether it's through donations, sponsorships, or fundraising activity. They want to give money. They're not going to always be as obvious about it as they had in the past because we're in the age of a pandemic. And so people are very self-conscious about, overt acts of giving in a sense because they don't want to draw attention to themselves per se. But we have to make sure that we have channels that make it easy for them to donate to us, so to give us money. And those channels include having the sponsorship strategy and packages that you've talked about, as well as having donation channels and funnels so that they can just click a link and donate or put a check in an envelope and send it to us. So that was all I wanted to share. Good conversation, though.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that wisdom there, Dr. Lewis. Thank you so much. Herbert, welcome to the stage. Welcome to the podcast. Herbert, there you go. There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually bike riding, so you're getting to know.
You're my type of guy, man. That's what's up, man. Love two wheels.
Thank you. Well, thank you for sharing your information. It's been very helpful. One of the things that I'm working on is a nonprofit that works with young people in creating summer opportunities for enrichment, and that's camp. And so it's just more of how do we begin to market that because it's an old paradigm. And now we're just trying to rebrand it and also repurpose it because for so long they operated with 35 years of history. But now it's seeing how do we retool this for this generation. And so it's more of because it takes about $50K in order to run the camp for a full week. And so it rotates among our college campuses. But the funding was cut. And so now trying to get the old heads to understand we have to look at new ways of investing. And we can't depend upon the church to do that. So how do we then in turn market this camp so that it's fulfilling for children for the generations to come so that it can at least see the next 35 years. So we're in that position of really rebranding, instituting it, trying to just bring a refreshing element to it. And so it's just more of where do we go?
Awesome, man. Yeah. Tell me more about the camp. What's the targeted outcome of the camp? What results are you looking to achieve? What do people get? What do young people get as a result of being part of the camp? And I love the birds in the background, brother. Love it.
Me too.
I'm gonna go outside after this podcast is over, man. I gotta get outside and enjoy my birds.
Come on, join me. I'm trying to get Jay Charity to join me too, but anyway. But the basic outcome is to provide a holistic experience so that they can see something different, be it spiritually, mentally, and financially. How do we equip them in those threefold manners? Number one, you got to deal with the emotional trauma that they're dealing with, and then because you can't deal with the spirit until you confront the trauma. And so, and once you confront the trauma, you can then in turn begin to retool them with things that can help them advance and move forward. And then thirdly, helping them to provide, because a lot of them are from an economically disadvantaged background. How do we retool them to become stronger entrepreneurs? Many of them are drug dealers or they are doing, they're doing crazy things in order to get money. So just showing them that they already have the skill set, but how do you remarket yourself? I mean, think about one young lady, she got an eyelash brand already. And I was like, baby girl, it's about branding. And so how do we incorporate those pieces in there to help them move beyond what's familiar. So it's not about just them, because initially it was focused on, oh, we want preachers, no, I don't care about the preachers, I don't care about all of that. What I do care about is how do we get them home, so that they can then in turn use their experience as a teaching platform, a preaching platform. So it's about taking ministry to a whole new level and allowing it to be holistic and just natural, organic out of who they are.
Yeah.
So that's the outcome.
Yeah, I love it, man. I hope I have something of value to add here. So camps are a wonderful nonprofit program type. From what I'm hearing from you, Herbert, you're looking for something that's experiential. And you're looking to remarket and repurpose, and you want to be around for another 35 years, and it takes about $50K to make this happen. So there are a couple of revenue sources. I want to talk about revenue, then I'm going to talk about marketing. So I'm going to go backwards and talk about revenue, and then marketing. So there are a couple of ways you can make money here or generate money. Obviously, the sponsorship game that we've been talking about all morning can certainly be of value to what you're doing. So replay this podcast and kind of put some of those things in action. Ticket sales. So parents will have to put a deposit on it. I understand some people may not have the money. We can deal with that later, or you can just deal with sponsors to help with that. Grants. Grants can come into play, particularly if you're serving a specific population. Not sure where you're located, but if you're into serving opportunity youth, there's this thing called, and I'm not sure what it would be called in your town or city or state, but summer youth programming from your local American Job Center. The application process may be closed to be a provider, but if it's not, it could be a huge opportunity to provide work-based learning opportunities for young adults. And this is going to lead me into the marketing piece in a moment. So we talked about grants, talked about sponsors. I think I'll leave it at that because I think we need to talk more one-on-one. But when it comes to marketing to the young people, right, generating interest, generating bodies to want to come, I want to kind of talk about the struggle the industry, the nonprofit industry has, even the church has, in being specific about who they're targeting. Because I noticed you talked about young adults who coming from highly traumatic backgrounds, drug dealers, etc., people who are doing hard life. I want to be super clear about this, guys, particularly when you're serving youth, young adults, but it's for any population you're serving. We love to serve people who meet this extreme definition of needing help. The young man who's carrying a gun, selling drugs on the corner, who's terrorizing the neighborhood. Yes, he needs help. I get it. We all know that. But what people don't talk about are the young people in that community who are traumatized by his presence. We call this opportunity youth in the industry, 18 to 24-year-olds who are at risk of becoming statistics dependent upon the system or falling through the cracks because of their high-end barriers, violence, homelessness, lack of economic stability, lack of food security, etc. These are the young people who live near the young man who's terrorizing the community through his activity. And nobody talks about how to help them on their journey. Nobody talks about their trauma. Nobody talks about what they're going through. Everybody talks about saving the young man who is hardened to life and who, quite frankly, the only help that's going to help him is when he's arrested. Okay? So we need to be super clear about who we're serving and be realistic about who we're serving. The truth is, that young man, you're likely not going to be able to convince him to come to your program, let alone your summer camp. You're likely not going to get him off the block long enough to come away for a week to experience something amazing that you have to offer. And if that is reality, then you're either going to have to meet him where he is, which is on the block, which is a totally different skill set and core competency, or you're going to have to serve a different type of young person who has the same traumatic experiences, but who's more open-minded. So I think that marketing is going to be tied to understanding who your audience really is in terms of young people and where do they hang out. Are they in school? Are they a part of other programs, etc.? They're certainly not a part of the church in critical mass. So you're going to have to market through partners. It's going to be critical for you to do that. In addition, marketing a holistic experience and quote enrichment is not enough. I believe if your camp hasn't already done so, your camp needs to have very specific outcomes it's targeting for these young people. If it's an entrepreneurial camp, talk about it. If it's a STEM camp, talk about it. It can't be anything generic and non-tangible like life skills. There's nothing wrong with life skills, but that alone is not going to generate interest from young people to come and show up on this camp. It has to be something tied to something tangible that they are already exposed to, which is why I'm talking about STEM, which is why I'm talking about entrepreneurship, which is why I'm talking about college in some cases if that's what they want. It has to be tied to something that they really connect to. And this is going to require you, Herbert, you and your team, to disassociate yourselves from what you think they want and identify what they actually want. Again, you're not talking to the drug dealer on the corner now. You're talking to the young people in the community who are negatively impacted by the activity of this young man. This changes the game of who you're targeting. It changes the game of what you're marketing. It changes the game of what you're selling to these young people, because the reality is, whether they pay for it or not, nonprofits are in the business of sales. What are we selling? We're selling access to opportunity. We're selling access to a learning outcome that helps them that in a way that they want it. In addition, there needs to be something that they get at the end of this. Not just a t-shirt, not just free meals. I mean, they can get that on the corner any given day because every church is handing out free sandwiches. And I said sandwiches, right? You heard me right. Every church is giving out free sandwiches, right? But it's more to it than that. What do they want? What can they, for the young lady that has an eyelash business, you teach her how to have entrepreneur skills. She refines it, pitches it, does a great job. What did she get in the end? A round of applause? Or is there a business grant that you're willing to give to this particular young lady to help her launch her business during camp and to help support her business after camp? Now, in order to do that, you're gotta have money. Like, it's gonna probably cost you more than $50,000 to bring in guest lecturers who are entrepreneurs who can help these young people for a day, maybe a couple of days, work through their business model, develop mechanisms to produce their product or service, to develop the applications, a marketing system, etc. That's not expensive but affordable enough and realistic enough for the young person to do. Our young people understand music, they understand sports, they understand apps, they understand communication through all social media platforms. So you need somebody who can speak their language and give them what they want. That makes it relevant. Quite frankly, unfortunately, a lot of our old school preachers don't relate in that way. They could, if they realize that starting a church is also starting a business. They're entrepreneurs as well. But if we over spiritualize it, and I get it, I'm a pastor too, but if we over spiritualize it, we miss the point of being what Jesus truly was. He was a relatable figure. He helped people get to their end goal, which is salvation and freedom, by way of giving them what they needed. What did they need? The dude needed to be healed. He was at the pool for 38 years. The woman caught in adultery, she just wanted to be loved and forgiven. The woman at the well, she wanted the people to stop judging her. Zacchaeus didn't want to be judged because he was rich. The disciples were looked down upon because they were uneducated. And he gave them all opportunity to feel love, to feel respected, to feel special. And if we're not doing that in a contemporary way to our young people, good luck with that. I'll turn it back over to you, Herbert. I don't know if you're back on your bike. While we're giving Herbert a minute to kind of come back online here, any other thoughts about his idea for the summer camp? Any contributions folks want to make who are currently on stage?
Is Dr. Gail, I love the idea. And I love the value that you just provided around the idea. We have these great ideas. We want to go out and save everyone, but we have to remember that we have to meet people where they are, and we can't forget about the adjacents when we're talking about the stuff that we're doing. And I was thinking too about what Nicole was saying earlier. I believe start talking about mentoring opportunities or incubators
Yeah.
or think tanks.
Love that.
That's what gets them interested, and that's what gets them excited about it.
Love
and
that.
Then using them to help market it, right? They're experts in TikTok and all of that. And so having them do just TikTok videos to show what they're doing in those spaces.
Oh,
and the
man.
projects that they're working on.
Dr. Lewis, hold that thought. Let me reset the podcast. Because I want to have this conversation with you. Hold that thought, guys. Be right back. All right, folks, welcome back to the podcast. We were in the middle of just a riveting conversation. This is the Dr. William Clark podcast, by the way. We help simplify your fundraising results and strategies. This particular podcast is brought to you by the Nonprofit Fundraising Masterclass. If you're looking to simplify your fundraising approach, if you're looking to 10x results and get more output from your board to help you fundraise, join the Masterclass. Submit your application by going to nonprofitfundingstrategies.com. Again, that's nonprofitfundingstrategies.com. We have a few seats left on a wait list and would like to get you in there right before we launch our next cohort in a couple of weeks. And for the folks live in the audience here on Clubhouse, touch on my profile pic, send me a DM, and ask me for the Masterclass application. We'll be glad to get it to you. Dr. Lewis, you were in the middle of a thought. I love how you said that, incubator camp. And maybe we should take the word camp out of it, but I love the fact that you started to go down this pathway, right? What if there was a particular camp session just about TikTok, how to monetize TikTok, how to monetize YouTube, how to monetize whatever platform these young people are using for their business purposes, and we don't call it camp? What if we called it something around incubation or whatever that made it more targeted for what they're doing?
Exactly. As I think about young people these days, they are really excited about starting businesses. They understand the importance of having multiple streams of income, and a lot of them have that desire to be their own boss. We've sold this be your own boss culture. We've sold this boss mentality. We've sold this boss chick thing, and so it's sticky. It's very, very sticky. And so now we have an opportunity to really lean into that and give them the skills, the resources, and the tools that they need. And so as we think about the programs and the services that we offer, maybe it's not about having camps for them, because that can sometimes have that negative connotation or that childish connotation in their mind, because they're thinking, I'm a fully fledged adult, even though they're not, or they're on the way to becoming an adult, and they don't have time for camps. They want to pick up stuff that's going to help them in the now. And so one of the things that can help them in the now is incubators.
Yep.
The pandemic has forced us to shift to primarily virtual operating environments when it comes to reaching, teaching, and even preaching, right?
Yep.
And so why not take the incubator into the virtual environment that provides them with the skills that they need to be entrepreneurs, so that they understand. Don't get caught up in the get rich quick schemes where you get the paycheck protection loan, and now you're stuck paying back $200,000 to the federal government, and you don't know how you're going to do it because somebody on Instagram told you to set up an LLC, get the money, and be happy. That's not how this works.
That's right.
So teaching them about how to build the business, how to build the back end of it, teaching them about how to protect it, their intellectual property, and then teaching them how to really kind of expand it, market it, and build it to where it becomes a revenue stream and not just an expensive hobby. Dr. Gail, and I'm done speaking.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, and I think there's huge opportunity there, Herbert, if you're still here to kind of chime in here. And I think that could be a hit. Again, I would do a survey of young people who are your target, get a sense of what they would want, what their friends want, what they would like to have as an experience. Maybe it's not camp, but maybe it's a retreat, maybe it's a conference, maybe it's a getaway, whatever you want to call it. And I think you're right, Dr. Lewis. We treat young people as if they're kids, and they are growing adults, and they want to do adult-like things. And I think bringing them into the world that we're in, right, when we go away to retreats and conferences, learning expos, incubators, whatever you want to call it, funding pitches where you're not – Shark Tank is more than just a TV show. quite frankly, that's a mimic of what real life is. You pitch your business product and you either get funding or you don't, right? Having that experience legit where these young people get a chance to get don't give them a little punk $500 check because they did a good job. No, make it serious. Give them some serious money. Give them the pain and agony of losing something so precious. Give them the joy and excitement of getting something precious. Major money for them, $5,000, $10,000. And it means if you're going to do this, you're going to have sponsors. You're going to have to be willing to lose some money knowing that not all young people are going to make it successfully with their business. But my goodness, can you reflect on the fact when you started a business years ago and the things you learned from your ventures and how it made you the person you are today? What if those lessons were learned at a much younger age? Even if they failed, you could be setting a young person up for a major success. And I'll close with this, Herbert. Entrepreneurship and money is deeply spiritual. The relationship we have with money is an indication of our spiritual condition. The Bible, the good book, says that if we love money, the love of money is the root of all evil. So how do you desensitize a connection with money that is causing a lot of ruckus in our community? How do you take away a love for money and not let it rule our peace of mind in our communities, which is what's causing a lot of the issues? You teach our young people how not to love it by controlling it, how to dictate it, how to direct it, how to employ it, not love it. Because what they later find out in life and what most of us have learned, we've been chasing after money, chasing after careers, chasing after promotion, chasing after this. We finally get it and realize I'm still not happy. Because you went after something that does not bring happiness. Whatever your heart is, that's where your treasure will be also. And perhaps this camp has a spiritual undertone in that you're teaching young people how to live their best life, and what that looks like in a number of ways. So Herbert, I'm not sure if you're in a position to come off mute. If you can, go ahead and come off mute and share. There you go.
I am. That has been very helpful because, again, my office is also university chaplain here at Dillard University. And the camp has grown so that we have young people from all across the nation that attends the camp. But I've seen where it is now plateaued in a downward spiral. Mm-hmm. So your suggestions have been very helpful. And you don't know how I'm already sending out this particular podcast to some of the stakeholders to understand where I've been coming from, because you all have just confirmed so much as it relates to me trying to get them to think outside the box. And not take the traditional. To be a university chaplain, you can't be the most orthodox individual anyway.
Yep.
So,
yep.
And so, you're viewed as a heretic when you bring in certain suggestions that begin to challenge the normal paradigm of thought. And you all have just confirmed a lot of what I've been saying to them, because, again, it's about broadening the net. And how then do we make sure that we get the ones that are what I defined and deem as the least, the last, and the lost. And that are those that are quiet. Yep. Because it's normally the ones, as you said, that we focus on that are screaming. But what about the ones that are screaming inwardly and no one there to listen to them? So that has been very helpful and affirming in more ways than you could ever imagine.
Yeah, man, that's powerful. The podcast will be up as soon as this clubhouse room closes. So, you'll be able to skip to your segment and share what you need to share. But yeah, I agree. And I think that the more we can realize that when we help people experience peace and joy and life at a different level, we are appealing to the spiritual side. Oftentimes, and we forget how we came to salvation. This isn't a spiritual podcast, but, we forget how we got to where we are. And it was because the Savior, who we believe in, found us in the middle of our mess. And sometimes the middle of our mess is in economic despair. Sometimes the middle of our mess is when we don't have stable housing, in the middle of a violent-ridden community. Sometimes the middle of our mess is us in the club, just drunk and a mess all over the place. It's different for all types of folks. And so if the faith-based community where you are is looking to touch lives, it has to understand that it's not going to be the same path. We're going to end up in the same place. We're going through the same door, right? And you know that door, Herbert. But how we get to that door is different for everybody. So I really do hope this helps, and I hope that these ideas help open more doors for you to serve more young people. Well, guys, we have been doing this. Oh, go ahead, Herbert.
Oh, thank you for that time, and you'll hear more from me because my rule of thumb is who's going to do this with me? How can we get some help?
Oh, yeah.
So thank you.
Yes, certainly. And certainly, if you want to schedule a consult with me, Herbert, just shoot me a DM. We'll love to just chat with you further about your fundraising goals and how I can possibly be helpful on your journey.
Will do. Look forward to it. I'm doing it right now.
Awesome. Anything else you want to share, Herbert, before you go back to the audience? Same with you, Denise, since you're still on the stage, before we close this room?
No, thank you so much. I mean, just for the affirming element, and just this is an incubator group, and you all just affirmed the idea, and how do we bring it to our next generation and getting them to think about coming together and bouncing ideas versus working in a silo.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Herbert. And Denise, any other thoughts, feedback you want to share before we wrap the room? All right. Seeing none, guys. I want to just highlight again, some of what we talked about. We talked about quite a bit. We ended up talking about sponsorships and raising money, of course, in this podcast. This is the Dr. William Clark podcast where we talk about this. And I think we discovered some really cool things and concepts that can help us on our journey. And if you were in the audience listening to this, or if you listen to the replay of this in the podcast, replay this, right? You can go find this if you're in the Clubhouse, the Dr. William Clark podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. Go ahead, check it out. Give me a few minutes. It'll be uploaded and live in just a few. But replay this podcast, right? Replay the elements that really spoke to you, but also replay the guidance that was given, the counsel that was given. If any of that resonated with you, there are two things I want you to do. There are two things I want you to consider doing. Number one, I want you to consider scheduling a free consult with me. I want to talk with you about your goals. I want to talk with you about your nonprofit. I want to help you on your journey. I want to provide some thoughts that can help you get unstuck and move forward. The second thing I want you to do, if you're prepared to do this, I want you to join the Nonprofit Fundraising Masterclass. If you want more hands-on coaching over a 7-week period where we're walking through concepts and ideas and building the foundation to raise serious money for your nonprofit organization, submit your application to be a part of our upcoming cohort. I have a seat waiting just for you. We're doing this because we know that there are more leaders just like you who need the help, who need to get unstuck, who need to move forward. If you want to do that, I encourage you to do that today. Visit me at nonprofitfundingstrategies.com. Again, that's nonprofitfundingstrategies.com, and submit your application. Just submit your application there, and we'll be glad to add you to our fundraising masterclass family. And if it's easy to do so, tap on my photo here and shoot me a DM and let me know that you want the masterclass application, guys. It's been a wonderful time hanging out with you guys. This is the Dr. William Clark podcast. This is the Nonprofit Funding Tips Club on Clubhouse. We'll catch you guys later on the flip side. Peace. Hey everyone, this is Dr. William Clark here. I just wanted to come on really quick and say thank you for listening to another episode of the Dr. William Clark podcast. We're here to help you simplify your processes so you can triple fundraising results to support the programs that mean so much to you. Would you be so kind to like, comment, and share this particular podcast? We are indebted to you for being faithful listeners to this particular podcast show, and we want to continue to spread this message to other people who can benefit from it. So please share this podcast episode and entire show with your colleagues, your friends, and people who you know can benefit from this. You can connect with us in two ways. You can go to drwilliampclark.com. Again, that's drwilliampclark.com, or you can visit us at mysixfigurefunding.com. Again, that's mysixfigurefunding.com. There you can register for our free upcoming webinar, How to Triple Fundraising Results Without Chasing Funders. It is possible, and I share with you the secrets on how to do that. Thanks again. We'll see you in the next episode.